I'm very excited for our episode 16. We have a good friend of mine, a real estate extraordinaire, cross-border investor, Tom McCormick on. We're going to talk about investing in Canada and the U.S. So, Tom, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
Having me. Yes.
How was the drive down, man?
It was good. We drove all the way from Windsor, Ontario, so it was about a 3-hour drive. Hit a bit of snow, but it's fine.
It's crazy snow up there, eh? Like
London gets dumped on, but Windsor, we have no snow here, and we come up here, and we're freezing. We're freezing. I'm underdressed.
Awesome. It's nice to finally have you on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, and I know you have your own podcast. What's the name of your podcast, Tom?
All Things REI Podcast. You can find that on Facebook and on YouTube now.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
thanks for the plug.
Yeah, no problem. You know what? I appreciate what you're doing out there in Windsor, man. It's I don't think anybody else in Windsor is doing what you guys are doing at this time.
Yeah, when we started out, there was another person I know of for sure, but now we've been most consistent throughout, especially for the real estate meetups themselves and doing the lives and the interviews and the property walkthroughs and tours. That's where I think we've just outlasted everyone else. So not to say there aren't other real estate groups and whatnot, but myself and Jeremy, we're Jeremy McGraw. We're the ones boots on the ground day in, day out at Windsor.
That's amazing. And you know what? I love those walkthroughs because we do it here in Hamilton.
People love them.
The manifest walkthroughs, and the response you get from people when they're like, wow, that's what it was, and that's what you guys made it, and like, you know, the transformation, you know what I mean? I always, I've done so many flips, but I'm always amazed by the transformation at the end. It's just like what it was and what it is. It gets you excited, right? And like for people that are starting out, right, they don't really have that much experience coming through to one of your walkthroughs. They have a ton of questions, right? You probably deal with that all the time, right, Tom?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people, it varies in range of their expertise and their kind of level of experiences, but a lot of times we do get a lot more of the newbie people coming through. And they have questions they don't even know necessarily about the permit process. We try to bring contractors in to answer those questions. Maybe they don't understand some of the electrical things. So we've had some really in-depth tours where it's down to the studs. And we were midway through. Actually, the last one we saw was 2 7-plexes.
Wow.
7-plexes. So it was bigger multifamily, not just a flip, and actually had fire damage. So then we got to explain, hey, this is what the city requires for you basically rehabilitate the place, and this is what's required for R value and all these things and fire separation now that the building's been damaged previously. So it's just really interesting, and I always aim to provide as much value as possible by picking unique properties and getting people who really know their craft, like other investors. Yeah, bring them and showcase their buildings, so you can kind of put a spotlight on them. Yeah. And it's not necessarily on me; it's a spotlight on them, so they can shine and then explain to everyone else and provide that value.
That's a great way of doing it. And I know I met Jeremy. Jeremy's a great guy, also.
Absolutely.
Your partner.
He's a gem.
He's a great realtor in Windsor, and you know he's built a portfolio there. And you guys are the power team there, I think, right? Like helping all those investors out there. And that value is huge. Like, it's one thing to watch it on TV, right? HGTV, you're watching all this stuff. But to actually be boots on the ground and feel and touch what it is and what it's going to be and what the rules with the city are, the permit process, that's a huge value. So I wanted to ask you, Tom, how did you get started into this stuff? Like, tell me about Tom. Tell me how Tom came up one day and said, hey, I want to be a real estate investor.
Honestly, I kind of got fed up. I've been blowing my money on so many stupid things, and I knew for the longest time I wanted to get in real estate. Just for some reason, I wasn't using my brain. I wasn't saving up money. I wasn't really looking even at what I could buy or what I could do. So eventually I said, okay, well, I got to just jump in. And actually, my brother was a catalyst because he bought the peak of COVID 2020 in April. So it was like March, then April, he bought a duplex and said, if he's buying one, he's younger than me. I can't be slacking here as the bigger brother. I got to go and buy myself something. And so then I bought myself a single family that I converted to an ADU. So nice. Like essentially a duplex, right? But I remember actually trying to think, how am I going to convert this basement with zero experience? I'd had a bit of hands-on woodworking and things with my father, but besides that, of course, I'd never dealt with the city. I've never dealt with contractors.
Oh, man.
I've never done drywall before, like none of this stuff.
Oh, my. So you just jumped off the deep end, right?
Sometimes you got to. And honestly, you have to take action, and you don't want to be just sitting back and letting life pass you by. You got to take it by the reins. So
I agree. I completely agree with you. So what is your day job? Do you have a day job? Like what is like you told me what got you into it. Your brother pushed and he got into it, and you know, I met your brother, really nice guy, and I know you guys do the whole partnership with the McCormick Group. So is it like, okay, he got involved, I want to get involved? Was there something to do with, I don't know if I really want to do what I'm doing right now in my career for the rest of my life?
There was definitely that aspect too. So I'm an engineer by trade. I got mechanical aerospace, and that was my degree in Windsor. But the problem is I was just good at math, so that's why I chose it. I never really thought too hard about what I really wanted to do. So I just kind of, like I said, I let life happen by, and I let people make choices for me. And so
your parents made that choice?
It's not that they forced me into it necessarily, but it was like, be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, and nothing's wrong with any of those things. Because I know those are great professions, and people work their butts off, and I'm grateful for that. Of course, yeah. But the problem is, it's not really rewarding because you're working for someone else, and I love the idea of working for myself and building something that you can have for generations, like a legacy. And I didn't see that I can really do that from a desk job.
And no, it's 100% correct. I've worked in desk jobs, and sometimes it's you know, it's great to go to school and get your education and get the discipline and everything, but sometimes you're in a position where you're like, is this it? You know what I mean? Like, is this every day the same story? You know, get up at 7, get ready, go to work, have your coffee. Like, it can't possibly be it, right? Like, you're looking at people out there, and they're, you know, enjoying their life and making millions in real estate or whatever they're doing, crypto or whatever they're doing. And you're like, hey, you're looking outside that window. You're like, I wonder what the grass is like on that side, right? I wonder if I should try doing different things. Like, and I was in the same situation myself when I was I had different types of businesses, and I've worked for people. And sometimes working for people is really challenging too.
It depends on who you work for, but generally speaking, it can be tough for certain individuals.
Yeah, it can be really challenging because if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, it's very difficult to stay thinking within the box. You're always going to question, well, why don't we do it this way, and why don't we do it that way? And that's what brought me to entrepreneurship, because I've always questioned, like, why do we have to do it this way?
I bet there's a better way to do this, or X, Y, Z.
Yeah, there's a more efficient way of doing it. But no, this is the company, this is the policy, and we got to stick to it.
And they probably don't even explain why it is. They just say it is what it is.
It is what it is, right? And to me, it was always like, why is it the way it is, right? And that's what led me to entrepreneurship. And honestly, it's scary, man. Entrepreneurship is scary.
I agree with that one, 100%.
I want you to tell me a little bit about how you felt when you jumped in.
Well, you speak about grass being greener, right? Yeah. And so I not that I expected it to be very easy. I knew I'd come up with some bumps and bruises along the way, but the thing is, I didn't realize it was so in-depth and so vast, like what you can learn within real estate, because there's so many different aspects of investing, right? But just this physical part of the ADU itself that I did, I tried to chicken out actually first. I asked the ADU expert of Windsor at the time, Savio Almeida, and shout out to him, he's great, but he consulted me. So I said, okay, would you be willing to be the GC on this project for the basement? Because I already got fed up doing the whole upstairs and gutting it myself, rewiring and everything.
Oh, wow.
But
you were the GC on it?
I was GC for the upstairs because it was just me doing all the work, and then I had someone do the tiling. But besides that, it was me, and I bootstrapped it with my dad, and then my brother helped me a little bit too.
Oh, boy.
But the basement was still left, and I said, okay, I don't want to go through this again. I don't know the permit process, because that's a whole different beast, needing to know, like, oh, I need 6'8" ceilings. I need 6'4 3/4" underneath ductwork. Like, what's my fire separation again? All that stuff I had no idea. So
the building code, it's very difficult.
It's definitely difficult. And someone starting out, of course, they're not going to know. But I asked Savio, and I asked him, hey, would you be willing to help me with this and manage this project for me? He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, kid, if you want to be in real estate and actually do this for the long haul, you need to crawl through the mud, and you need to do this yourself and figure it out. Yeah, and so it was like tough. It was honestly tough love, because then I was like, oh, wow, if I definitely want to know my craft, I should know the ins and outs of the business. Because how am I supposed to know if a contractor is bullshitting me, or if an city inspector is actually telling me to do something over, above and beyond than what's necessary? Because sometimes that happens too. Like, you get different answers from different people, and
everybody's got their own perspective, and sometimes they're not really worried about you; they're worried about their pocket. And sometimes a architect puts so many toppings on that pizza that's not required. Like, you don't need all those toppings, and now by the time you try to get them off, you got to go back and you got to get it adjusted. I've seen it, I know, and it's scary, man. Like the stuff that you're talking about, I've been through it. I've lived it.
You've been through a lot.
But I feel like, you get stripes for everything that you accomplish.
Yeah.
In this business, you get stripes, and by the end of it, you'll be a zebra.
Let's hope so.
And that zebra is an experienced zebra, because now you become an expert in that field where people are looking for you. They're seeking you, to find you, to ask you to help them and to join them and become a partner in any kind of business endeavor they go into. So it's actually the best experience is your own experience.
Agreed. Yeah, and you can prove it to yourself too, saying, if I can handle this, I know I can handle this other situation. If I can get through this big problem that I have, I can then get to the next level if I can overcome this. So I agree with that.
There's obstacles. There's a lot of obstacles. And in this business, obstacles, they could go from 0 to 100 real quick. Like you were telling me about a little bit of an issue you had a couple days ago, where it just came out of nowhere,
money
right?
issues,
It just came out of nowhere. And that's... I guess that's the beauty and the curse of the business, right? The beauty is, like, when things are great, they're amazing. They're phenomenal. Everybody's making money. You make money.
That's like the 2019 days, 2020, where the real estate just kept going up and up, and people just bought, just hoping for appreciation.
2021, 22, I was a superstar. I could sell anything with boots and a cowboy hat, and 100,000 over, 200,000 over.
I can only imagine the Toronto prices.
It was massive. 2023, not so much, man.
That's where you saw the real people start to get hit.
People were getting hurt, and the business was suffering, and it's always people pointing fingers, right? Like, it's always, this person's fault or that person's fault, and it shows your true character how you get through that, right? Because it could take a toll on your emotions, it could take a toll on your life, it stresses you out, and when that well dries up, you're like, oh man, you got to find a different way to make this work, right? So that's great. You learned a lot in your experience, and I know now you're doing some stuff across the border, right?
Yeah, we're starting to expand now, because as much as I love Windsor and I love Canada, sometimes you got to go where you're treated best. And with regards to like the landlord-tenant board here in Ontario right now, and just price per door, and contracting prices just for building, it makes more sense to go to the States. And it makes more sense to go to specific cities. I'm not saying go to California, but right? I'm talking about Detroit, Cleveland, that we're both investing in.
For sure.
And because there you can actually cash flow, and that's huge. And you can actually get real flips and real burrs going. And I am having a difficult time finding those right now, especially on the MLS. But
it's very
even
difficult.
Wholesalers here in Ontario is still it's dry, at least in this current point in time.
It's very difficult to cash flow right now in Ontario. People are buying properties to renovate and flip, and hoping for a better spring market. Everybody is. I'm hoping for it.
You don't want to wait on hope, though. That gets a little dicey.
And just like the people that bought condos, it's speculatory buying, right?
I've heard about that.
And a lot of people lost a lot of money, speculatory buying. But I completely agree with you. When I went to Boots on the Ground, when we met there in Wealth Genius, I seen the prices per door in Cleveland. I seen the rent. I seen the landlord.
You saw, all the possibilities.
And I was just like, wow. So you could buy an average house for $100,000. You could rent it out for $1,600 and a mortgage of $700-800. And what's the catch? Like, I was always looking for the catch. What's the catch? I'm a realtor, right? What's the catch? But I didn't find any catch. And there are difficulties on that side of the border too,
and there are some loopholes. There are things. There are hoops you have to jump through. I'm saying, but it's not insurmountable.
It's not as difficult as here, I would say, in terms of permitting and all that stuff. But you learn a lot going through the process there too. You know what I mean? But it's for you. It's even better because you're in Windsor, which is a bordering city.
Correct.
To Detroit. And you took us to Detroit that one night. It was like 10-minute drive.
In comparison to Windsor, again, I love Windsor, but you can't compete when you're going to Detroit for food and for activities.
Oh my God. It's nothing against Windsor guys, but it's night and day. Tom was gracious enough to take us there, through the tunnel, I guess. It was like the lights turned on in Detroit, and I don't know, it was some Christmas festival going on, but it was like I was expecting Detroit to be run down, but they spent a lot of money on that place now.
Well, yes, Detroit still has like a big stigma around it because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get my rims stolen. I'm going to get my car's going to be on cinder blocks when I walk out of this restaurant. But honestly, the crime's actually reduced. Murder rates have gone down because of the new police chief. He put in like some more mental health stuff. A lot of the old buildings have actually been torn down, so there's less blight. And people are actually moving in, and there's more jobs and economic activity going on. So,
and downtown looks amazing, man.
And especially the downtown, billionaires are really investing there.
Yeah,
and government incentives as well are pouring in. So, it's really underrated.
It's changing, and for you to be on a bordering city, it's like a 10-minute, 20-minute drive.
Yeah, I'm actually 5 minutes from the tunnel. I'm there.
There you go.
I'm there in the 5 minutes. Yeah.
So that's huge for investors, and you know the Canadian dollar's weak right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a double-ended sword. When you're purchasing, you got to pay a little bit more, but when you got that American money coming in as rent, you're winning on that side, right? So that's pretty huge. So what are you working on right now, Tom? What kind of projects you got going on?
So right now we're working on a burr in Cleveland, a duplex.
Okay,
we're finishing a refi as well of a triplex in Cleveland, and then most recently we closed on a flip in Detroit. And that one we got for $75,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So just like you're saying, around that 100K zone, you can buy houses, and maybe even less.
What's the ARV on that? What's
ARV for that's going to be around 270 conservatively.
Wow.
I don't think we'll hit 300 by any means, but anywhere in that like 260 to 270 range, we're golden.
That's massive.
We're factoring in no more than 100K in rentals as well. So the spread is still there.
Wow.
I think next time in the future, just for reference, I probably won't buy as much of a dump of property, but just to do the first one in Detroit, I think we needed that test case, and so I was happy to just jump on this, because if we can again handle this terrible property, then we know we can handle this lipstick on a simpler one. So
yeah, for sure. And you know what, you live and you learn, right? I've done projects that I wish I didn't do.
Oh, how come? I mean, that's a whole different deep dive.
They're just older properties,
Okay.
right? Like. And when you open up the walls on an older property, you're going to find a lot of surprises.
Yeah. Unpleasant surprises.
Unpleasant surprises, no insulation, knob and tube, foundation crumbling, lots of things you can find, right? The older the home, the higher the risk as a flipper or someone that is going to renovate and burr or rent out. I like houses in the 70s and 80s myself, because building code went up a little bit.
To a higher standard.
Yeah, higher standard. In comparison to the 1800s, where you got, newspaper as insulation, and everything needs to be replaced. Like, your budget will be blown very quickly.
You'll have to probably research some joists.
Yeah.
Jack up the whole house too while you're at it. Like it's costly.
Yeah, it's costly. You said you have some stuff in Cleveland that you're working on. So you said you have a triplex there?
Yeah, we did a conversion actually. We bought a mixed-use commercial building, and then we actually added additional units to it. And so we're going through the process right now of actually getting occupancy permits, and then refinancing. So that'll be a really interesting one to do, but that's actually a story about, I don't know if you want to get into this now, but of having bad contractors. We actually had some issues.
No, I love to hear about it.
Yeah.
I love to hear. I'd like to ask you, how was the permitting process in Cleveland?
Generally speaking, it was pretty easy. When I compare back to Windsor, we had permits within 2 days. Whereas
in Cleveland?
Yeah, it was just...
In your hand, permits?
Yeah, from a one contractor. So it wasn't for the whole permit. I think it was for specific, was it plumbing? There was one permit we got like right instantly. I was like, holy cow. Because I'm used to waiting 2 months for an ADU permit in Windsor. It's night and day. And that's using electronic paper processing in Windsor too. But we actually, we were able to get started pretty quickly on our building.
2 days.
Yeah, I think generally that's not really typical though. I think you're still like at least a week or so, at least. But
it takes 2 weeks just to review the permit here in
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know why people drag their feet so much here in Canada, but I think it's just the bureaucracy. But they're geared more towards just generally capitalism over there. So they know speed is what you need. That's the name of the game to make money.
And I completely agree, and I've seen it from what we were talking about, getting bank accounts right away, right?
Yeah,
it's just
you got like a couple of them one day.
You get 3 or 4 bank accounts in one day.
Yeah.
So tell me about this horror story with these contractors, because you know what? That's the pain point I find a little bit, right? In the U.S., based on my experience of, vetting contractors and doing a little bit of research. So tell us what happened there.
Well, to get into it a little bit, this contractor was actually vetted by the same real estate group that we're in, Wealth Genius. And it's no fault of Wealth Genius. It's just they were one of the ones that were kind of presented to us as a preferred contractor.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And because of that, we thought, okay, this is good enough, and they've been used by this guy and this guy and this guy. So we thought, okay, this is probably going to work out well for us. But the problem was that I think because there's so many Canadians specifically coming to Cleveland, they got inundated with so many other investors that they kind of started to drop the ball. So it's not necessarily nefarious, but it's just they didn't have the systems and tools in place to actually be able to handle all the influx of people. And so then we started to have our project slow down. One of the permits wasn't pulled, and that's the occupancy permit. It wasn't never actually provided. And so we had to go back to the city now and get we had to get that remediated to some degree. So we're still in the process of waiting for the city to basically rubber stamp it and say, okay, you did all the right work. It's just you never pulled the final permit, or got it all received. Yeah.
Was the workmanship good?
Craftsmanship was decent.
Okay.
It's for the area. Yeah, it's just like a B- C+ neighborhood, so it wasn't anything really tip top. Okay. But just kind of. That's one side with Cleveland. I was blown away by the level of renovations I need to do. Because here in Ontario, we're doing quartz countertops, we're new everything, new flooring, paint. Like you're probably replacing windows. You're doing everything, and then you come to Cleveland, and they're literally doing the landlord special that you typically think of, just literally skunking paint on the wall. Like maybe you're doing some kitchen or some bathroom, but for the most part, you just lipstick it, and then you're good to rent it again. And they don't really care as renters, But back to the contractors. So what we learned because of that is that you need to hire fast and fire fast. Because we waited too long, kind of thinking, maybe it's just going to get better. Maybe if we keep calling them and kind of pressing him for this, that he'll finally get his act together. But once they show their true colors and they kind of show that consistent pattern over and over again, you gotta just cut your losses.
I completely agree with you. You know what? We were talking off camera before about vetting people. And I'm guilty of this, man. When I feel like this is a good person, I give them the benefit of the doubt. They put on a smile. They tell you what you want to hear. They compliment you nonstop, and I'm a sucker for those. They butter you up. Yeah. I'm a sucker for those compliments, But you got to really vet your people, and not so much by vetting their background and stuff like that, because I did that, right? More like vetting them. Testing them. I think you need to test people. You know what I mean?
Do you have any? I was gonna say, do you have any examples of testing?
Yeah, one way of testing, like for example, you buy dinner 5 times and let them, one day say I don't have my wallet with me, and see what they do. You might starve, or they might buy you dinner. It's just, I think it goes back to you don't really know someone until you're in a business with them or you're in bed with them. And sometimes it's too late, right? So you gotta be careful, because it could cost you money, time, stress, and it may push you away from doing business in that area, putting everybody in the same category, which is not the truth, right? Like, it does take a lot of time to vet people. I definitely think vetting contractors is optimal.
You have to, yeah.
It's optimal. Vetting realtors is optimal. Vetting lenders, vetting lawyers, even title companies.
Yeah, everyone on that power team, you need to vet them.
You got to vet them. You can't just say, yeah, you know what, you look good, you smell good, you do a great presentation, I think you're the one. No, go on a few dates.
Right.
See if your visions align, and see if they are the right one for you. And you know what, you kind of dodged a bullet too a little bit, right? Because it could have been worse. Definitely. And I dodged a bullet. You always gotta be grateful, because sometimes everything happens for a reason, right? And you may have dodged a bigger bullet of dealing with things later on. So that's great, man. You got the U.S. stuff going on. You know what I mean? the Cleveland, the Detroit. What are you thinking of doing next? Because I know you're still doing the everything REI. You're out there. You're doing the podcast. You're doing the webinars. We did a manifest presentation together.
Yeah, I'm glad you came down all the way to Windsor for that one.
No problem. That was a great time, and you guys, gracious hosts, yourself, Jeremy, your girlfriend. I had a great time, man. In Detroit, it was, I told my buddies, let's go, let's go, man, let's go. Right. So what's next for Tom? What's Tom gonna do in this new year, 2025? What's your New Year's resolution, man?
One of the main ones is we really want to build deep roots in Windsor by the All Things REI, because going back to myself starting out, I really wanted to have that mentor, have that experience given to me, but I didn't really have an outlet or a place to go to. So we're going to continue ramping those up and making regular events. But we're really trying to now find investors that want to partner with us in the States, because now that we have several deals underneath our belts and we've kind of test the waters, we got more systems in place, we're ready to ramp up and actually do more deals. And so that's why when he talked about Manifest and doing the kind of the Cleveland deals and the partnerships and part of the mentorships as well, and you have the different tiers of investment, kind of if the level of experience that you want, I really vibe with that, because you don't need to pay an arm and a leg just to get in this real estate group, right? It's something that's affordable and manageable for all people. So even if you're just a true newbie, you can afford to actually do this versus having to spend 15, 20K just to
be part of a program.
Yeah, just be part of it and not really actually, no shade to any other program, but you don't get as much hands-on experience as you might hope for in some cases.
That's the thing, right? The hands-on experience. He hit the nail right on the head. Like, there's such thing as overstudying. There's such thing as analysis paralysis and not taking that action. Like, you jumped in, you took the action. A lot of investors are petrified, man.
Yeah.
They're scared. And I talk to a lot of them, right? And I just keep saying the same thing. You got to jump in. You got to jump in. Like, if the numbers make sense, if the property makes sense, if you got the team, you got to jump in. Yeah. And that's why what you were doing in Windsor resonated with me, because you guys are doing the same thing that we're doing with the Manifest. And I said, you know what, as a partnership, it would work out great, because I do have contractors. You know what I mean? I have contractors here. I have contractors in the States. We do have supplies.
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to touch on too.
We do have supplies. Like, building supplies is massive. It's like, if you could save money on the building supply and on the contracting, then you could pay a little bit more and beat out the other offers.
Right.
Because there's bidding wars, right? So it gives us a competitive advantage over
a decent edge
over other people. And I've done a lot of flips in Canada. I've done a lot of burring in Canada. And when I look at the market in Cleveland, like, I can't say it's easier, but I'm going to find out when we're closing on one soon, in about a week, but it seems a lot easier.
Right.
In terms of, like, you're talking about permitting and getting things done. It's more streamlined, capitalistic country. So we're really looking forward to it. And, our partnership growing, and, we're going to be supplying stuff in Cleveland. I mean, supplying materials in Cleveland, supplying materials in Windsor, right? Because there's a lot of people that need good materials, and I've done so many projects that I know when material's not good, because then again I have to replace it, right?
The same quality 5mm vinyl or whatever else. You can tell.
You pay for what you get, but what we have going on right now is we got a phenomenal system of, we got wholesale products, right? We got the flooring. We're going to have trim. We're going to have doors. We're going to have windows. So it's pretty much a little bit of assortment of everything.
You called it your own Home Depot, basically.
Your one-stop shop. One-stop shop. And we'll deliver to your door, kind of thing. And that helps an investor tremendously. They could go to Home Depot. Home Depot's a middleman. Like, no shade against Home Depot.
No, nothing against it.
It is a convenient source, but if we could save you some money, you could make some more money and buy another project. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's the goal with the supplies, and the goal with the contracting is not to get ripped off. Because I've been ripped off, man. When I started out, I got ripped off, and until I learned to talk the talk.
Yeah, to sniff it out.
You know what I mean? And walk the walk, and know how to talk to trades. They got a special language.
A little bit more rough around the edges.
A little bit
more forceful.
Yeah, a little bit more profanity. But as long as you know how to talk the talk and you know what you're talking about, I think they respect you. You know, you got to earn it with trades, I think. And that's the thing. And what we're doing together, I look forward to it. I look forward to being able to help one another. And the Manifest seminar in Windsor was a great hit. I love for your take on that. What do you think about that?
It was the first of its kind, at least in Windsor, because I don't know of any U.S. investing seminar specifically that showed investors how to invest cross-border. We hadn't done it with All Things REI, so I'm glad you came down to help with that. But it was interesting because it was not only an in-person, but it was also a virtual event. We had the double whammy.
Yeah,
so
that was awesome. That was an awesome setup that you had.
We'll have to continue that too. We were talking, and we're going to actually have more live webinars. So if you can't make those in-person meetups, you can at least learn from Manny and the rest of the team and learn that online, or even watch at your own leisure, maybe on a later episode on YouTube or wherever else.
Tom and Jeremy, learn from all of us. It's a collective. I like to call it the Avengers, right? It's a collective. It's not really me alone. I have a team, a Manifest team that you're going to be introduced to. And Tom, I know you have your own team too. You got the great support on that side. And just coming together to be able to have a common goal and help investors is massive, right? Because investors are all looking to do one thing: invest in confidence and have the trust of whoever they're investing with, right? And to gain their trust and do business with them. And, you know, if they want to buy in Cleveland, we can buy in Cleveland. If they want to buy in Detroit, we buy in Detroit. If they want to buy in Hamilton or Windsor, these are like our stomping grounds.
I got you covered anywhere you want to go, basically.
It's, you know, we're not saying Canada is not a great place to invest. If you find a great deal, let's do it.
Of course.
You know, if we find a great deal in Windsor, you know, we're going to probably jump on webinars where we run some numbers on some Windsor deals. We'll run some numbers on some Hamilton deals. And then we'll run some numbers on Cleveland deals and Detroit deals.
It with those U.S. ones.
You know, compare them and, you know, compare an apple to an apple, an orange to an orange, and see what's best for an investor. But the main thing I think for investors is having that rock solid team. Right, to have that solid team to confide in. Yeah,
you got to be able to rely on them hard.
Exactly, and people that have done it, which is very important. You can't preach on something that someone else has done. You got to preach on something that you've done. I look forward to next week. There's an expand.
Yeah, we'll be there. Genius. Both of us.
Both of us going to be there. I'm looking forward to. I got 3 suits set up to go for 3 days. Looking forward to meeting new people, and that's what I love about these programs. You get to meet an assortment of people. Like I met you through Wealth Genius. I met a lot of good friends that I have through Wealth Genius, and you get to meet people from all different stages, right? And like people from Vancouver and out east, and expand your network, right? And that's I think that's paramount, right? With what we're doing, and I look forward to the webinars that we're going to do together, you and I, and Jeremy, and we have some stuff coming up in Windsor. You know,
absolutely.
We're going to mention what we're going to be doing in Windsor. You got to stay tuned for that. But it's 2025. You know what? I'm looking forward to it, man.
We're going to hit the ground running.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to do, and you know, we got to get started, you know, right away, because I think we could help a lot of people. This is all about helping people at the end of the day. That's why I got involved with Wealth Genius, because I can learn from people that have done more than I have, from like Alfonso and the great coaches they have. And I can network with people like yourself and other investors. And also I get to, you know, pitch what I'm doing, you know, and you get to pitch what you're doing, right? And we're pitching what we're doing collectively.
It's a time for you to actually put a spotlight on yourself. That's the time to promote yourself and really be loud in those events.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know what? The great part of what we're doing is we actually live it. We actually do it, right? So I'm closing on something in Cleveland next week. You have some stuff in Cleveland. I know you're doing the videos on the Detroit stuff. I see it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at that house. I'm like, oh boy, that's an 1800s house. Like, Tom, that looks like Melvin Tube in the background.
Come to Detroit when it's all done, and then you'll see. It'll be nice downtown. It'll be mid.
I know. Listen, the heartache is getting to that point. Yeah. But once it's there, it's like, whew, I did it, you know? Yeah. I've done older houses, and I was watching some of the videos that you were doing. Those are great videos, just educating people on the process. And I look forward to doing stuff with you, Tom. And I really appreciate you coming on our show. And I know it was a far drive, man. 3
Hey,
hours.
no, it's my pleasure.
You know-
Honestly, when you mentioned that, I jumped at the chance.
Yeah, no, and I look forward to doing stuff. And you know what? I want you to stick around because we got some stuff going on today.
Sounds good.
And we're gonna go out afterwards. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to 2025. We got a lot of things to work on, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Hey, appreciate you.
All right, man. Thank you.